tell me about honing that situational awareness without putting myself in a situation where I get killed by a serial killer, and why that's so important to people that want to become leaders or are leaders. Like how do you hone that situational awareness without putting yourself in a dangerous situation in the normal day-to-day, and why is that important to business?
So great. Such a great question. Because what happens is that, people walk through like a room, the people that they work with and just in life in general. And they're so focused most of the time on their internal conversations. And a lot of times when people have a conversation, what are they doing? They're waiting to talk, right? And they're missing cues, whether they're verbal or nonverbal, of what's happening around them. Part of being able to increase your situational awareness is to have like moments of silence where you are really looking at the room, right? You are seeing who's in the room, who's interacting with who, what are some of the things that they are doing. And even on things like Zoom, like you can really kind of look and see, like, is someone paying attention to what's going on? Are they distracted? Like, what are some of the things that they're bringing up? Like, what's going on? And that's why it's great when you've got leaders that when they do come in contact with people, they'd be like, hey, how you doing? And if they go, oh, fine, maybe ask a little bit deeper question without, prying or becoming personal. It depends on the relationship that you've built with them. And that is something that happens, is that when you've built relationships with people, when they're off on something or something is working or not working. And you also have to be able to give your team the tools to have the conversation. How do they de-escalate situations, right? What does their come from? Do they, you can only imagine now with just the things that we've talked about here, with some people having the conversation, whether they agree or not agree, that can escalate into fights and division, and it can affect work. And there's a lot of things that can happen with that. So you have to be able to look at, okay, who are your people? What are the things that they're struggling with? What do they stand for? How can you support them? And when you have a good idea of who's in the room and how you're interacting with them, you then know when things are off, and you can be more pinpointing about what's happening, and you can be that a step ahead of when things come up, of how to minimize them, and how to let people have their voice and let them make the decisions that they need to happen. A lot of times people look at a leader of that is a dictator, right? And that there's controlling, and it's like, you do this and you're doing that. That's more of a manager. If you're a leader, you are bringing out the strengths and qualities and experiences of your people, and, leading them to excel in those and to show up in those. And, when you are building team, and this is where team leadership really works, is to actually encourage the differences of other people, and to actually have some, questions that maybe are polarizing, that you can actually point out what are the good points of them bringing that up, right? People who are following a lot of things that are happening right now, it's maybe because they're scared, or, they want to, they feel like they're doing the safest thing, right? So they're trying to be risk adverse, right? There are some good qualities that are in that. And so you want to look at what is the discussions on both sides so that people feel heard. When people feel heard, then they can actually kind of calm down any of the things that are happening. And it's not about people, being right or wrong. It's about being heard, right? And being able to say, okay, I had some impact in what's happening here. So when you're aware of your people and your environment and what your business is here to do, you as the leader, you're to be more of the visionary, where you oversee what's going on. You're not necessarily the implementer of the things that are happening. You need to be able to see, okay, where are we having a rock thrown out of nowhere? What's going on? What's happening at the overall picture? And to make sure that your people have the skills to be able to maneuver through things like this. I mean, this is a time where, so much of the conversation is focused on, the disease, but not looking at the ramifications of people who've been locked in their home for almost 2 years, where the suicide's been up, domestic violence been up, child abuse has been up. There's a lot of things that people are dealing with on a mental, emotional way, that as a leader, you have to be aware of what people's situations are, because, it affects everything.